Hi everybody, welcome to my SOL review videos. This is for Math 8 and our first question is, what's the value of 4 times the quantity 6 plus 2 squared? Now as you can see it's multiple choice, so one of the possible answers is going to be found, or the correct answer is going to be found amongst these four. So if I'm in the middle of an SOL test and I'm actually trying to work this problem out, I would transfer this question over to my scrap paper. Pretend I have scrap paper right here. And I would work it out on my scrap paper showing all my steps. And I would be very careful that I transfer my values correctly from my test over to my scrap paper. A lot of times students do all their work correctly, but when they transfer the question over to their scrap paper, instead of 6 plus 2, they might have put 6 minus 2. Instead of 4 times the quantity 6 plus 2, they might have put 3 times the quantity 6 plus 2. So be very careful that all your numbers, all your symbols, all of your operations are transferred correctly from your test over to your scrap paper so that you work out with the correct actual numbers. Now, since this is simply looking for the equivalency of this expression, I need to follow my order of operations acronym, which is PEMDAS. All right, so PEMDAS begins off with a P, which stands for parentheses. And there are parentheses in this particular problem, meaning I need to do any math that's inside the parentheses. And the math inside the parentheses in this problem is pretty simple. It's just addition, 6 plus 2. So instead of having 6 plus 2 inside my parentheses, I have the value of 6 plus 2, which is 8. So my parentheses are done. Since there's still a value in the parentheses, but there's no more math to do, I can move on to the rest of my acronym. The next order of operation in PEMDAS is the E, which is the exponents. And there is an exponent in this problem as well, and the exponent 2 applies to the 8. So 8 getting squared is not 8 times 2, but it is 8 times 8. And 8 times 8, of course, is equivalent to 64. So I've taken care of my E exponent part of this particular expression. Now I look for any multiplication or division. Remember, these are interchangeable. Since I have multiplication, because 4 parentheses 64 is the exact same thing as 4 times 64, numbers separated by parentheses simply mean that they're multiplied together. I can go ahead and multiply these two values, and that gives me an answer of 256. And since there are no more operations, no division, addition, or subtraction, I am done, and that is my answer. So I would choose answer C. Now, what are some common mistakes that students might make besides maybe transferring the question over to their scrap paper incorrectly? Well, here might be a possible incorrect answer or incorrect solution. Let me go ahead and rewrite the problem. 4 times the quantity 6 plus 2 squared. What some students might do is they might square the terms inside the parentheses before they actually add them. So they're doing the E in PEMDAS before the P. So they would get 6 squared, which is 36, and then they get the 2 squared, which is 4, and then they'd do the work inside the parentheses to add those two together, giving them 40. And then when they multiply those two together, they'd come up with 160. And that's one of the answers that's provided for you. This test is actually expecting you to make one of the common mistakes, and it's giving you the answer to one of those common mistakes. Let me show you another very common mistake that students might make for this particular question. 4 times the quantity 6 plus 2 squared again. So the students go ahead and do the first part correctly. They do the parentheses, turning 6 plus 2 into 8. But instead of saying 8 squared, doing the E, the exponent part in PEMDAS, instead of saying 8 squared or 8 times 8, they treat this as 8 times 2. So instead of having 4 times 64 like we have up here, they're getting 4 times 8 times 2, 16. So they simply treated this exponent rather than as a number and multiplied these two rather than as an exponent and squaring the 8, giving us the proper value 64. So now with this incorrect value inside the parentheses, when we go ahead and multiply these two together, that gives us an answer of 64, which again is one of the possible answers up in our question. So be very careful when you're doing a problem like this. You all know how to multiply, divide, add, and subtract. It's simply following the correct order using PEMDAS to get you to the correct answer. All right, everybody, thanks for watching.